The massive alien ship drifted through the cold darkness of space like a metal beast hunting for prey. Commander Vexihol stood on the bridge, his 6 eyes scanning the star charts that glowed in front of him. His skin was grey and rough like old stone, and when he breathed, small clouds of vapor escaped from the slits in his neck. The Kefir Collective had been traveling for months, moving from one dead system to another, searching for something worth taking. Their ships were built for one purpose: to find weak civilizations and strip them of everything valuable: metals, energy sources, slaves, technology. Nothing was left behind when the collective finished their work. Sir called out. Zekma, the communications officer. His forearms moved quickly across the glowing panels in front of him. Blue scales covered his body, and his large black eyes never blinked. We are picking up something strange. Vexihol turned his attention to the main display screen. Lines of light danced across the surface, showing wave patterns that pulsed like a heartbeat. What kind of signal? It is very weak, Commander, coming from Sector 7 Alpha. About 12 light-years from our current position. Zekma's voice had a musical quality. Like wind chimes in a gentle breeze, the signal appears to be some kind of distress beacon. The other crew members on the bridge stopped their work and gathered round the central console. There was Verthek, the weapons specialist, whose body looked like it was made of living metal. His red eyes glowed as he studied the readings. Next to him stood Kellanir, the science officer, her thin frame covered in what looked like purple. For play the signal, Vexihol commanded. The bridge filled with strange sounds. At first, it seemed like random noise, beeps and clicks and electronic whines. But as they listened, patterns began to emerge. There were numbers, mathematical sequences that any intelligent species would recognize, and then something else. Something that made the alien crew shift uncomfortably. It was music. Not the harsh, grinding sounds that the Kefir called music, but something soft and flowing. Voices singing together in harmony. Instruments playing melodies that seemed to tell stories without words. Mixed with the music were spoken words in an unknown language. But the tone was gentle, welcoming. Analysis, Vexihol demanded, his mandibles clicking together in thought. Kellanir worked at her station, her long fingers dancing over the controls. The signal is definitely artificial, not natural. It appears to be a message of some kind, broadcast from a small probe or satellite. The technology level seems primitive. No quantum encryption. No phase shift modulation. Very basic. Where is it coming from? Vexihol asked. A system with a single yellow star, approximately 4.6 billion years old. There are 8 planets, with signs of life on the 3rd one. The probe appears to be drifting at the edge of their system, probably launched decades ago. Admiral Korth stepped forward from his position near the tactical display. He was the largest of the crew, with thick armor plating covering his body and scars from 100 battles marked across his face. Commander, this could be a trap. In my experience, signals like this are often bait. But Vexihol was already studying the tactical possibilities. A primitive civilization with basic technology would be easy prey. Their ships probably used chemical rockets. Their weapons would be simple projectiles, and they would have no defense against the collective's advanced systems. What do we know about this species? He asked. Kellanir continued her analysis. They call themselves humans according to the linguistic patterns in the signal. Population appears to be several billion, concentrated in various settlements across their planet. They have achieved basic spaceflight, but haven't colonized other worlds in their system. Perfect. Vexihol said, his voice carrying the satisfaction of a predator that had found wounded prey. A young species, probably curious about the universe, sending out messages hoping to make friends. The signal continued to play in the background, and now they could hear what sounded like children's voices, laughing and singing. There were sounds of water, of wind, of birds singing. It painted a picture of a peaceful world, full of life and beauty. The probe contains cultural information, Killenir reported, music, art, scientific data, even DNA samples of their species. They have literally sent their secrets into space. Korth shook his head, foolish. They have revealed everything about themselves to anyone who might be listening, which makes our job easier. Vexel replied, set course for their system. Alert the fleet. We have found our next target. As the massive Kether ships began to change course, their engines creating ripples in spacetime. None of the aliens noticed the tiny energy signature that appeared briefly on their sensors before her. Nishing. It was so small, so quick, that their computers dismissed it as background radiation. But far away, in a hidden monitoring station drifting in the darkness between stars, that tiny signal was received and decoded. A human technician named Doyen Park looked at his screen and smiled. They took the bait. He whispered into his communicator, "The fish are coming home." The collective ships moved through space like a pack of hungry wolves, following a gentle whisper in the void toward what they thought would be an easy meal. Behind them, space seemed empty and silent, but if they had looked more carefully, they might have noticed that some of the stars were not quite where they should be. 3 days passed like a slow dream before the Kether fleet finally reached their destination. The ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the yellow star system, their massive hulls casting shadows across the void. Commander Vexihul felt his heart beating faster as he looked at the main display screen showing their target. There it was, a small blue and green world spinning slowly around its star. From this distance, it looked peaceful and beautiful, with white clouds swirling across its surface and a single grey moon keeping it company. It was exactly what the probe had promised, a young world full of life. Beginning deep scans now, Commander, reported Zekma, his forearms working quickly across the control panels. The scanning beams reached out from the collective ships, like invisible fingers, touching every part of the human solar system. Vexihul watched the data flow across his screens. The third planet showed all the signs of a growing civilization. There were large cities scattered across the continents, connected by networks of roads and communication lines. Lights twinkled on the dark side of the planet where night had fallen. It looked like millions of small stars had fallen to the surface. Population scan complete, announced Kellenir from her science station. Approximately 8 billion organic life forms. They call themselves humans, just as the probe indicated. Their technology appears to be early industrial age with some basic electronics, weapons, asked Admiral Korth, always thinking about the military aspects. Primitive chemical explosives, simple projectile weapons, some basic aircraft. No energy shields detected on the planet. No orbital defense platforms. Their spacecraft use chemical propulsion, very slow and limited range. Vexihul smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. This was going to be easier than he had hoped. What about their space capabilities? They have sent a few small probes to other planets in their system. Kellenir continued. Some basic satellites around their world. A small space station that appears to be used for a scientific research. Nothing that poses any threat to our fleet. The damaged probe that had led them here drifted nearby, still broadcasting its peaceful message. Vexel ordered it brought aboard for a closer examination. When the technical teams opened it up, they found exactly what they expected, a time capsule full of human culture and knowledge. The probe contained thousands of images showing human life. There were pictures of their leaders standing in large buildings, making speeches to crowds of people. One image showed a woman named Hyuna Kim speaking at what looked like a global meeting, her hands gesturing as she talked about peace and cooperation between nations. Another picture showed a man in military uniform, the nameplate read General Taiho Park, reviewing what appeared to be defensive positions around important cities. But even these defenses looked simple and weak compared to Ketha technology. "Look at this," laughed Verthik, the weapons specialist. His metallic fingers held up a data chip containing human military information. They have actually included details about their defensive strategies. They tell us exactly where their important buildings are, how their governments work, even their population centers. The probe also contains something the aliens found strange and useless: human music and art. There were recordings of orchestras playing complicated melodies, paintings of landscapes and people, and poetry written in dozens of human languages. To the Kethwa, who valued only practical things, this seemed like a waste of space. "Foolish creatures," muttered Korth as he listened to a recording of human children singing a lullaby. "They send their weaknesses into space, hoping to make friends with whoever finds them." But Vexihol was more interested in the practical information. The probe contained star charts showing exactly where Earth was located, detailed information about their solar system, and even samples of human DNA. It was like the humans had written an instruction manual for their own conquest. "They are so trusting," said Kelenir, shaking her purple-furred head. "They actually believe that any species advanced enough for space travel would be peaceful and friendly. Their mistake is our advantage," Vexihol replied. "Begin deployment of advanced scouts. I want detailed surveys of their major population centers. Look for resources, industrial capabilities, and potential resistance points." As the Ketha scout ships began moving toward the inner solar system, their sensors focused on the blue world ahead. They mapped every continent, every ocean, every major city. The humans seemed to go about their daily lives completely unaware that death was approaching from the stars. On Earth, in the major cities, humans continued their normal routines in Seoul. Office workers hurried to their jobs while children played in parks. In New York, traffic moved through busy streets while people shopped and worked. In London, students attended classes while their teachers explained lessons about history and science. None of them knew that alien eyes were watching their every move, counting their numbers, measuring their defenses, and planning their destruction. But far below the Pacific Ocean, in a command center that did not appear on any human map, a different kind of preparation was taking place. Admiral Unili stood before a wall of monitors showing the approaching alien fleet. Round her, technicians worked quietly at their stations, their faces calm and focused. "They are taking the bait perfectly," reported Lieutenant Jinsu Hong. "All scout ships are moving into optimal positions." "Good," Admiral Lee replied softly. "Let them get comfortable. Let them think they understand us in space." The Kethva fleet continued its approach, confident in their superior technology and firepower. They had no idea that their every move was being watched, recorded, and analyzed by an intelligence network that stretched far beyond the small blue world they planned to conquer. The Kethva scout ships moved deeper into the human solar system like silent hunters stalking their prey. Commander Vexihol watched from his flagship as the smaller vessels spread out in perfect formation, their sensors sweeping across the empty space between the planets. Everything looked exactly as expected: quiet, defenseless, and ripe for a conquest. "All scout teams report normal readings," announced Zekma from his communications station. "No signs of advanced technology or hidden defenses. The asteroid belt appears to be nothing but rocks and ice." Vexihol nodded with satisfaction. The humans had made this too easy. Their probe had revealed everything the collective needed to know, and now their scouts could map out the final attack plans without any resistance. "Bring the fleet to full combat readiness," he ordered. "We will begin the assault as soon as our scouts complete their reconnaissance." But as the alien ships pushed deeper into the solar system, crossing the orbit of Mars, something unexpected happened. The space around them suddenly came alive with energy signatures that had not been there moments before. "What is happening?" Vexel demanded as his tactical displays lit up with warning lights. "Sir, I am detecting massive energy sources throughout the asteroid belt," reported Kelenia, her voice filled with confusion. "They were not there before. It is as if they just appeared out of nothing, all across the asteroid field. Objects that had looked like ordinary rocks began to change. Their surfaces split open to reveal hidden weapon systems. Stealth fields that had been active for years suddenly shut down, exposing a defensive network that stretched across millions of kilometers of space. "Impossible," whispered Admiral Korth. Staring at the tactical display, our scans showed empty space. "How did we miss this?" The answer came in the form of a communication signal that cut through the Kether frequencies like a knife. The voice that spoke was calm, controlled, and human. "This is Admiral Unilee of the Earth Defense Force. You have entered protected space. Your intentions are clear, and your fate is sealed, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean." Admiral Lee stood in the central command center that had been built in. Secret over the past 50 years, the room was enormous, filled with hundreds of technicians working at advanced computer systems. Holographic displays showed the positions of every ship in the solar system, both human and alien. "All stations report ready," announced Captain Minho Choi from the tactical station. "Dragon Squadron is in position. All weapon platforms are active. Cyber warfare teams standing by," added Lieutenant Jin Sahong, his fingers ready to type commands. "That would cripple the alien communication systems. Their computer networks are already compromised, Admiral. We have been inside their systems since they entered the outer system." Admiral Lee nodded calmly. "Begin the operation. Show them what deception really means." In space, the Kether fleet suddenly found themselves under attack from directions they had never expected. The asteroids they had dismissed as harmless rocks revealed themselves to be weapon platforms, their surfaces opening to expose railgun systems that could launch projectiles at incredible speeds. "Shields up, all ships prepare for combat," Vexil shouted, but his orders were already too late. The first wave of kinetic projectiles slammed into his scout ships with devastating force. These were not energy weapons that could be deflected by shields, but solid metal rods moving at tremendous velocity. "Sir, our communications are being jammed," reported Zegma, his forearms working frantically at his controls. "Something is interfering with our computer systems. I am losing contact with the scout ships. How is this possible?" Korth demanded. "They are supposed to be primitive. Where did they get this technology?" The answer came from an unexpected source. As the Kether ships tried to organize their defense, small human fighters began emerging from hidden positions throughout the asteroid belt. These ships were not the crude chemical rockets the aliens had expected, but sleek vessels that moved with impossible grace and speed. "Dragon Leader to all units," came the voice of Captain Minho Choi over the human communication channels. "Remember the plan. We are not just defending Earth today. We are sending a message to the galaxy." The human fighters attacked in coordinated swarms, using tactics that the Kether had never encountered before. Instead of trying to match the alien ships in size and firepower, the humans used speed and intelligence. They struck at weak points, disabled communication rays, and then vanished back into the asteroid field before the aliens could respond. They are using our own technology against us. Korth realized as he watched another scout ship fall too. Human weapons. Those projectiles are made from materials we recognize. They have been studying our ships. The terrible truth began to dawn on the Ketha leadership. The humans had not just detected their approach, they had been preparing for it. The probe had not been a desperate message sent into space by a hopeful species. It had been bait, carefully designed to attract exactly the kind of predators that the collective represented. "Sir, we are detecting human installations on several asteroids," reported Killenir. "Some of these positions have been active for decades. They have been watching us since we entered the system." On Earth, in a small apartment in Seoul, a young woman named Soyeon Park sat at her computer, monitoring the battle through the defense network. She was one of thousands of human analysts who had been tracking alien movements for years, waiting for this moment. Phase 1 complete, she reported to her supervisor. "The aliens have taken the bait. All units are engaging according to plan." In space, the Ketha fleet was discovering that they had not found easy prey. They had walked into a trap that had been decades in the making, set by a species that understood the value of patience. Planning and the element of surprise. The hunt had begun, but the humans were not the ones being hunted. The battle that Commander Vexahul had expected to be a quick victory had turned into a nightmare that stretched across the entire solar system. His massive fleet, which had seemed so powerful just hours before, was now scattered and fighting for survival against an enemy that refused to fight fair. "Report," Vexahul shouted over the sound of alarms blaring throughout his flagship. The bridge shook as another human weapon struck their shields, sending sparks flying from damaged control panels. "We have lost 12 scout ships and 3 heavy cruisers," Admiral Korth reported, his scarred face grim with worry. "The humans are not engaging us in direct combat. They strike and then disappear like ghosts." Through the main viewing screen, Vexahul could see the wreckage of his ships floating in space. But what made his blood run cold was what the humans were doing with that wreckage. Instead of leaving it alone, they were collecting it, studying it, and somehow turning it into new weapons. "Sir, the humans have built some kind of processing station inside a large asteroid," reported Killenir from her science station. "They are taking apart our destroyed ships and using the materials to build more." "Weapons? Impossible," Vexahul snarled. "How can they understand our technology so quickly?" The answer came from an unexpected source, on the human command ship in John's Pride. Colonel Sun-Ho Kim stood before a holographic display showing the alien fleet's movements. Round him, his crew worked with calm efficiency, analyzing every piece of alien technology they captured. The aliens make the same mistake that many advanced species make. He explained to his second-in-command, Major Yeji Park. They rely too much on their technology and forget how to adapt. They think because their ships are bigger and their weapons more powerful, they will automatically win. Major Park nodded as she coordinated the next wave of attacks. "But we have something they do not understand. We learn from every encounter. Each ship they lose teaches us more about their weaknesses." The humans had turned the entire solar system into a weapon. Near Jupiter, they had hidden magnetic field generators that could redirect the giant planet's radiation toward enemy ships. Round Mars, orbital platforms that had looked like scientific research stations revealed themselves to be weapon launchers. Even Earth's moon had opened concealed bays that released swarms of small attack drones. They are using our size against U.S., Korth realized as he watched a group of human fighters tear apart another Ketha cruiser. "Our ships are too big to maneuver quickly, and they are too small for our weapons to target effectively." The human tactics were unlike anything the Ketha had encountered in their centuries of conquest. Instead of trying to match the alien ship for ship, the humans fought like a pack of wolves hunting a much larger prey. They coordinated their attacks, shared information instantly, and adapted their strategies based on what they learned from each encounter. Captain Doyenly, leading a squadron of human fighters near the asteroid belt, spoke into his communication system, Phoenix Squadron. Remember what we learned from the Soul defense training. The enemy's shields are strongest at the front and weakest at the engine ports. Hit them there and move before they can respond. His fighters swooped in like deadly birds, their weapons precisely targeting the weak points in the alien ship's defenses. When the Kefir tried to turn their heavy guns on the small human craft, they found that the humans had already vanished into the asteroid field. "Sir, we need to retreat," Korth advised as another explosion shook their flagship. "We are losing ships faster than we can count them." But Vexihol was not ready to admit defeat. "Order all ships to converge on the third planet. If we cannot defeat their fleet, we will destroy their world directly." The remaining Kefir ships began moving toward Earth, their weapons charging for a final, devastating attack. But as they approached the blue planet, they discovered that the humans had one more surprise waiting for them. Dr. Wujenli, monitoring the battle from a hidden research station, reported to Admiral Unili, "The psychological analysis is complete, Admiral. The aliens are acting exactly as we predicted. They are moving into the final trap." "Good," Admiral Lee replied. "Activate the planetary defense grid." Round Earth, what had appeared to be communication satellites and weather monitoring stations suddenly revealed their true purpose. The planet was surrounded by a network of defensive systems that had been built in secret over decades, hidden in plain sight. They have turned their entire world into a fortress, Korth whispered in amazement as the tactical display showed the extent of the human defenses. But the most terrifying thing for the Kefir was not the weapons or the technology. It was the realization that the humans had been planning this for a very long time. Every piece of information in that probe, every detail about human culture and technology, had been carefully chosen to create a specific image in alien minds. "They wanted us to think they were weak," Vexihol said, his voice filled with a mixture of rage and fear. The probe was not a message of friendship. It was a trap designed specifically for a species like us. As more Kefir ships fell to human weapons, the remaining aliens began to understand a terrible truth. The humans did not just defend their territory. They hunted those who threatened it. And they had been hunting the Kefir since the moment they detected the alien fleet approaching their system. The predators had become the prey, and the hunt was far from over. With more than half of his fleet destroyed and the remaining ships badly damaged, Commander Vexil finally accepted what his pride had refused to admit. The Kefir Collective had walked into a trap that was far more sophisticated than anything they had ever encountered. "All ships, begin immediate retreat," he ordered, his voice heavy with defeat. "Set course for the system edge. We are leaving this cursed place." The surviving alien vessels turned away from Earth, their engines straining to escape the solar system as quickly as possible. Behind them, the wreckage of their once mighty fleet drifted in space, a monument to their failed invasion. But as the Kefir ships limped toward what they hoped would be safety, their sensors began detecting something that made their remaining crew members whisper in fear. "Sir," reported Zekma, his forearms shaking as he worked at his damaged communication station, "we are picking up human energy signatures along our retreat route." "What do you mean?" Vexihol demanded, though part of him already suspected the terrible answer. "There are human installations in the next star system, and the one beyond that. Sir, they appear to be everywhere." The truth was even worse than Vexihol had imagined. As the fleeing Kefir ships passed through system after system, They discovered that humanity's reach extended far beyond their small blue world, hidden. Monitoring stations watched them from the darkness between stars. Camouflaged bases tracked their every movement. Communication relays that looked like natural asteroids recorded their conversations and sent the information back to Earth. On a space station hidden in the shadow of a gas giant 3 systems away from Earth, Commander Kyung-min Park received the message from Admiral Unily. Let them pass, but make sure they know we are watching. Understood. Admiral, Park replied. Should we intercept them? No, they have a message to deliver. The Ketha had stumbled into a network that had been growing for decades. While they had been conquering weak civilizations across the galaxy, humanity had been quietly spreading through space, building hidden outposts and monitoring stations, always watching for threats. Admiral Cord stared at the tactical display, showing the human positions. How is this possible? Our intelligence networks showed no signs of human expansion, because they did not want us to see it. Vexihil replied bitterly. That probe was not just bait for us. It was a test to identify potential threats. They have been watching for a species like us. Species that would follow a distress signal, hoping to find easy prey. Dr. Soyoung Kwon, working from a research facility on a moon orbiting a distant star, analyzed the retreating alien fleet through her long-range sensors. Her job was simple: make sure the survivors understood the message that humanity was sending. The psychological profile is working perfectly, she reported to her supervisor. The aliens are broadcasting their fear and confusion on all frequencies. Other hostile species will hear these transmissions and understand what happened here. Back on Earth, in the Deep Ocean Command Center, Admiral Unily watched the alien ships disappear into hyperspace. Round her, the massive operation that had been planned for 50 years was finally coming to an end. Admiral, asked Captain Minho Choi, why did we let them escape? We could have destroyed them all, because dead enemies cannot spread warnings. Lee replied, but terrified survivors can spread a message that will reach every corner of the galaxy. The message was simple but powerful. Humanity did not just defend their territory. They owned it. The small blue planet that looked so peaceful and vulnerable was actually the center of a domain that stretched across dozens of star systems, and the humans were always listening, always watching, always ready. General Taiho Park, reviewing the battle reports from his office in Seoul, smiled as he read the final casualty numbers. Minimal human losses, maximum psychological impact. The plan worked exactly as we hoped. Lieutenant Jin Soo-hong, still working at his cyber warfare station, intercepted the alien communications as they fled. Sir, they are already broadcasting warnings to other Ketha fleets. They are telling them to avoid this entire region of space. Good, Admiral Lee said. Let them spread the word. Earth is not a target. It is a trap. As the battered Ketha ships jumped to hyperspace, Commander Vexihol transmitted one final message to the collective leadership. His voice was filled with the kind of fear that comes from encountering something completely unexpected. This is Commander Vexihol to all collective forces. Avoid the system with the yellow star at all costs. The third planet appears defenseless, but it is the center of a vast human domain. They do not just fight, they hunt. Their network spans dozens of systems, and they have been watching us long before we knew they existed. The transmission would be heard by hostile species across the galaxy, carried from ship to ship, from fleet to fleet. The story would grow with each telling, becoming a legend that would keep aggressive aliens away from human space for generations on Earth. Life continued as normal. People went to work. Children played in parks, and students attended their classes. But now they could do so knowing that their planet was protected not just by weapons and shields, but by a reputation that stretched across the stars. The whisper in the void had done its job. Humanity had sent a message to the galaxy. They were not victims waiting to be conquered. They were hunters, and their domain was vast, silent, and always listening for the next threat that might foolishly follow a gentle signal into their carefully prepared trap. The hunt was over. But the Watchers remained, ready for whatever might come next.